To finish this topic up, so mutualism is common between symbiotic species. And if you remember, symbiosis means the close association between different organisms. So things like mycorrhizae, and that's that symbiotic association between plant roots and fungus or fungal hyphae. And the association is such that the fungus help greatly extend or enlarge the surface area for the roots of a plant, and in doing so help maximize nutrient and water absorption by the plant. So the plant benefits, and then the fungus benefit because the plant through photosynthesis will provide nutrients, carbohydrates to the fungus. So something like 85 to 90% of plant species have mycorrhizae, this mutualistic symbiotic association with fungus. So more mutualism. Coral reef. Coral reefs ecosystems, they depend on a mutualism between the coral, which is actually a animal, stinging cell animal like a jellyfish, and a unicellular algae. If you remember, an algae is a photosynthetic protist. So unicellular photosynthetic protist that resides, where's my cursor? Here we go. That resides in the body of the coral polyps. And in doing so, they help provide nutrients for the coral via photosynthesis. So there's the benefit of the coral. The coral provide a place to live, shelter for the algae and carbon dioxide. So both organisms benefit. So it's a beneficial mutualism that helps keep coral reefs as productive as they are. So the sugars provided by the algae provide approximately half of the energy requirements of corals. And then the algae gain a place to live, a habitat, and use of the coral's waste, carbon dioxide, and ammonia, which is a source of nitrogen for the algae. Now, predation is pretty straightforward. Someone wins, in this case a worm with nice nasty teeth and jaws, and somebody loses, in this case the fish, the worm, predator, the fish, prey. Here's your cheetah and gazelle. So predation is pretty straightforward. One species kills and eats another. The predator preys on the prey species. And there's lots of adaptations via natural selection for the predator to avoid being eaten. But then it's like an evolutionary arms race. If the prey species, through natural selection, evolves and adapts to become quick and fast, well, the predator species, because of that pressure of having to be fast to catch the prey, the predator species evolves to be quick and fast, if that is the association they have. Okay? In this association here, well, it seems to me that the fish is not that smart. But anyway, clearly a predator-prey association here. And other adaptations to avoid being eaten are camouflage or cryptic coloration. And it makes a potential prey species difficult to spot. And the example I have here from your textbook, here's the tail, there's the body, and there's the little eyes and the mouth, or the mouth of a seahorse, which is holding on to a coral. So it has evolved camouflage or cryptic coloration, to hide and avoid predation. Wonderful example here. It does go both ways. Sometimes there's a predator, often things like insects and spiders, that develop camouflage so they can hide. And when a potential prey species comes by, they then attack. So that helps them be more efficient predators. Here's an example of a katydid, an insect related to grasshoppers. And a passing bird, which would love to eat this, might not even recognize it because it's so well camouflaged. So many, many examples of camouflage or cryptic coloration occur in nature. Continuing on predation, one defense of organisms is warning coloration. And this is often a patterning of red and or orange and or yellow against a dark black background or with black. And these colors have a high contrast against each other, so they really stand out in nature. And for some organisms, it shows or displays that they have some sort of defense, either chemical defense or some other kind of physical defense to prevent predation. Butterflies, monarch butterflies, are very distasteful for birds. So if a bird happens to eat this, the bird can get very sick, actually vomit. Birds are smart. They'll recognize that a flying butterfly with orange and black predation is not good to eat, and they will stay away. Same thing with a wasp or a bee. If a bird tries to eat this, the wasp or a bee can sting the bird, and the bird will remember, okay, that's something that's not necessarily good to eat. A predator, like a mammal or a reptile or another amphibian that might want to eat a poison dart frog, will soon find out that the skin of amphibians like this produce toxins, and some are actually deadly. So these animals are clearly signaling through warning coloration not to mess with them because they have some sort of defense to prevent predation. So predators learn that these colors have consequences and will avoid preying on similar markings of the same species or other species that might be similar in appearance. So the vivid colors of the poison dart frog warns that it does have noxious, actually poisonous secretions in its skin. A little more on predation. Prey species can gain protection through mimicry, copycat adaptation. So these two snakes are colorful, bright stripes. They stand out against their background. One of them is very venomous and poisonous, dangerous, even to humans. The other one is harmless. The one that's harmless has adapted a copycat coloration to appear at a glance to look like the dangerous species. So the pattern of alternating red, black, and yellow rings on the scarlet king snake on the left here makes it resemble the color banding of the eastern coral snake, which is a deadly snake. This one is not poisonous at all, but it gains protection by, at a glance, appearing to look like a dangerous species. You may have heard this in the past. I learned this a long time ago and I don't forget it. Red touching black, safe for Jack. Red touching yellow can kill a fellow. So what that means is if you see a snake that's striped like this in nature, if you see red against the black, it's a harmless snake. But if you see red against the yellow, that is deadly, potentially deadly. Stay away. Of course, if you just get a glimpse of the snake and it's not just hanging out, just assume it's dangerous. But if you actually can, if the snake's sitting there and if it's red against the black, this doesn't even have yellow, safe. Still be cautious. But if you see red against yellow, clearly stay away. Okay, more on predation. So some insects have protective coloration and body adaptations for disguise or camouflage or even bluffing is the word I'm looking for. So for example, insects that can resemble twigs like walking sticks or leaves like that katydid I showed you, and some even look like bird droppings. At a glance, this looks like, bird droppings. It's actually a moth. Here's the wings. There's the top of its body, and those are forelegs that it's extending out. So it's a harmless, tasty moth to a bird, but a bird might look at this and just think, oh, it's bird droppings. I'm not going to eat that. Here's a katydid that looks like a leaf. Again, coloration for protection. And the ones down here are very interesting. These are two different caterpillar species that on their back ends they have a swollen back end and markings that look very much like eyes on a snake. So when they sense danger, they will stay stationary and stick up their back ends and potentially move them around a little bit to bluff a potential predator into thinking that at a glance, hey, that looks like a snake, and if I'm a bird, I'm not going to mess with the snake. Okay, herbivory is a type of predation, and some biologists refer to it as plant predation. So herbivory is when animals are eating plants, so it's a benefit to the animal, the plant eater, and clearly negative, detrimental to the plant because it's getting consumed. So consumption of plants or algae by an animal. So plants have evolved numerous defenses. Think about it. A plant is stationary. It can't run or hide from a herbivore. So one defense is to produce chemicals as a metabolic byproduct. And the chemicals are stored in the leaves or in the body of the plant. And the chemicals are distasteful or even toxic to potential herbivores. Or other physical structures like spines. Think of a rosebush and thorns. That would minimize the likelihood of herbivory. Of course, animals work their way around it by being careful as they eat away. Now, how does this affect humans? There's a number of plants that humans actually take advantage of those chemicals that might be distasteful to some other animal herbivores, but humans actually take advantage of them, like the somewhat sweet taste in peppermint, that can actually be beneficial to humans. Cloves, as a spice. Pepper is another example. Cinnamon, which is part of a cinnamon tree, the bark of it. We shave it off, we ground it up, we put it in whatever, baked goods, and cinnamon tastes really good to us. The taste that we're getting from the cinnamon is a chemical substance that the plant has produced that might be distasteful to an herbivore, but actually tasteful for us. Now, coffee is another example. That chemical is a mild stimulant. Okay, so let's talk about parasites and pathogens. Again, beneficial to the parasite and the pathogen, detrimental to the host or the victim. So a parasite, it's a type of predation where the animal, the parasite, will live on or in the host but not kill it outright because it needs the host for nutrients or even as part of its life cycle. So roundworms and hookworms and tapeworms and nematode parasitic worms that may be in an animal like a pet, horse, or maybe even you, they won't kill you, but they are detrimental because they are damaging to your health, even if just a little bit. A flea, a louse, or a tick, these are external parasites, and some of them carry disease. In other words, they're a vector or a transmitter of disease, like the plague by the flea, or a tick can cause, the problem is escaping me now. But think of a mosquito. It's a parasite. Can transfer things like malaria. So pathogens are disease-causing microbes, bacteria, viruses, fungi, and even protists that can cause nasty things like malaria, athlete's foot, leprosy, or HIV, leading to AIDS in humans. Okay. So these organisms are benefiting from infecting a host, but the host is clearly harmed. Okay, let's move on to the concept of trophic structure. So trophic refers to feeding or attaining nutrients, and structure refers to basically what is getting nutrients from what other organism. So for example, a mouse is getting nutrients from plant material, so they occupy two different trophic levels. And we'll get into the details as we go here. So trophic structure, the feeding relationship among various species in a community. Sometimes it's referred to as transfer of energy from one organism to another. Another way of describing this is a food web. And a simple linear interpretation would be a food chain. And we'll continue in the next section.